Hello and welcome to the Team VVV podcast for all your weekly racing game rambles. I'm Martin and joining me as ever is Kevin.
Hi guys.
He says, stuffing his mouth. And Alan.
Hello viewers.
As always, if you enjoy the podcast, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. It always helps support what we do. This week, we are giving away a copy of Carmageddon Max Damage on the PlayStation 4, so do check out the website for more details on that. So, what's been happening in the world of racing games this week? Not that much, actually, if we're being honest. Apart from one tiny announcement. Codemasters has finally broken the silence on Dirt Rally, but it wasn't what we were expecting. No, it's not new stages or cars, unfortunately, although those will probably come later, hopefully. But no, Dirt Rally is now coming to PlayStation VR. But perhaps the biggest surprise is the fact that you have to pay for it, since it's not a first-party release. I have to say, from the trailer, it looks absolutely fantastic. There seems to be a lot less blur compared to what we saw in Drive Club VR. What did you guys think of the trailer?
A little bit skeptical because I just can't imagine the PlayStation VR will be able to output this sort of quality. But if it's most of the way to what we see here in the trailer, I've got to say it's an exciting prospect.
Yeah, I suppose in some ways it's not quite as the main game isn't as detailed as Drive Club either, and obviously the stages are shorter and all this kind of thing. So I think in some ways it has more potential for VR than Drive Club. It seems a bit more tailor-made for VR experience, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I hope it. I mean, we've got to factor in that it's going to be very bumpy, these rally stages. How does that translate in the VR environment? I'm not quite sure until I actually get my hands on it, but I just hope it's not going to make a lot of people sick because of all the bumping in the cockpit.
I was going to raise that, yeah.
They need to make the driver itself, the head of the driver, quite stationary, I think, to get away with it and just sort of move the elements around the driver's head.
I suppose what I meant was just in terms of fidelity, it seems like a bit of an easier fit for VR, but in terms of the actual game experience, yeah, obviously rallying is quite intense. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's so bumpy. There's jumps everywhere. I can imagine that would be quite easy to throw up in.
Yeah, I mean, there has been some people trying it. I think IGN did something, and people playing it on Oculus,
I remember
and they all found themselves being quite rough afterwards. But that's not VR's fault. That's the fault of you chuck these people into a rally car, get them driving at those kind of speeds, and they'd probably feel like that in real life. So it's always difficult to know if it's the VR itself. I was just going to say, one, I'm impressed with what I've seen, but two is, you've got to remember they're moving a game from 60 frames per second to 90, which isn't like necessarily Drive Club. That was at 30 frames in the first place. They had to sacrifice an awful lot to get to 90 frames. Whereas Dirt Rally's been made, it's been made a couple of years later. It's more optimized to 60 frames by reducing certain scenery detail that you can't see as well with the lower resolution. They've managed to find a nice balance from what I can see. It's still going to be a little bit blurry, but it's going to be okay. I think you're going to see a resolution increase with the Pro, but overall it'll be much clearer than what we saw with Drive Club and another great addition. So I know people are a bit annoyed that they're having to pay for it. In defense of the publishers, we never really know how that's broken down. We don't know whether the charge comes from Sony or whether there's a licensing that needs to be brought in or that's internal that you're not aware of. Often when publishers sign deals with people like Sony or Microsoft, and if they have to pay Sony or there's a deal with Sony or Microsoft, they're not allowed to talk about it. So it's not like Codemasters could say, "Oh, we're having to charge you because Sony have just slapped this levy onto PSVR games and stuff like that." It's on one hand, it's a bit of a shame. It's a shame. Well, let's wait and see if there's any more in the DLC pack in as well. And they've been announcing on Twitter. They were saying that something big was coming. I don't know if this is it or not because I
wondered the same. It seems a bit anticlimactic if it is.
It does, yeah.
See, it all depends. If you own a PSVR, this is fantastic. This is huge. But for the rest of the guys that want DLC tracks and cars, they're let down by this news. So this is bad news for some and great for others.
No, I have a feeling this isn't the last we've heard from them.
No.
To be honest. Also, thinking about, obviously, will it make you queasy? We played Trackmania Turbo, and that didn't make us feel queasy. That is the one game I thought would actually have an effect on you like that. So, if Dirt Rally is well optimized enough, then who knows?
There is a lot more undulation in Dirt Rally.
Yeah.
There's a lot more of the car going up and down in a sort of the environment. So they're like roller coasters. They're very smooth roller coasters in Trackmania. And it could be the various forms of movement in the intensity of driving. There's a lot of very quick direction changes, left, right, up, down, left, right. It's quite intense. I mean, even when I play, you've even said it yourself, Martin, that you played Dirt Rally and you're like, wow, that was an intense session. It's a very intense experience. I do get the feeling, sometimes with VR, I find I can only take short bursts. I find it quite exhausting sometimes.
Same here, actually. I can't play Drive Club for more than about 20 minutes or so.
No, I do find it quite intense and exhausting, and that's because it's quite a lot of stress on your eyes as well, because the resolution is quite low. So
blind in a few years' time, probably.
Probably. We'll look back on this. It's probably disastrous for us. I do wear my glasses, actually, when I use it, and it's a lot clearer. But yes, there we go. Pro tip there.
Yeah, I do wonder if there's going to be any, like you say, compromises to the VR experience to make it a bit more VR friendly.
Yeah, just like Trackmania Turbo, wasn't it? They sort of simplified the tracks, and with Dirt Rally, we just imagine it's going to be the existing tracks. I think they see a rally across the stage.
The announcement applies that it's just a VR update for the main game. In other words, all the content in the current game will work in VR. That's how the announcement seemed to be worded to me. It could be perhaps we'll get some options to adjust, the shakiness of the camera or something like that. I think that would be necessary, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm sure they've, I'm sure they'll have looked into the details. I mean, making sure people's first experience of VR is always so important, because if people try it and it makes them feel ill, they'll probably never use it again. It's important to sort of settle people in, if you like, to that experience. But, Dirt Rally is an intense racing driving experience. And it's, in terms of, is this an entry level experience? No, it is not. So, it's going to be not going to be faint of heart trying to get involved in that.
I do wonder as well if any of the guys from Evolution Studios were involved with it, because obviously they worked on Drive Club VR and have since moved over to Codemasters. So whether or not they've sort of lended their expertise from what they've learned from Drive Club VR and adapted it to this.
I think there's no doubt. I mean, you're looking at a game there that Evolution Studios didn't get a chance to optimize. So if they had a chance to optimize it, who knows how good it would have been. I mean, it would have been amazing, but sadly we got what we've got. But let's see what they can manage now. They've got a team behind them in terms of Codemasters, what they come out with.
One thing I do quite like the sound of as well, though, is the new 2-player co-op mode, which I wasn't expecting, where one of you acts as the co-driver and another acts as the driver.
I quite like that.
Good fun, actually.
Yeah, it's something that most of us will probably never use, sadly. I think that's the only disappointing thing.
It's that kind of mode you'll try once and then never again. Yeah,
it really is. When your mate pops around, and then he gets bored after about half an hour of sitting there, doing it, whatever. I think it's
to press a button to put the command on the screen or something.
That's right. Yeah. And I just think it's a great concept, and I'm sure in the office they've had amazing fun playing with it. But I think when it comes to people's homes, it's a nice gimmick. People will have fun with it from time to time, but it will fade, And I don't think I have many friends with the patience to just sit there while I'm the one actually playing, calling the commands to me all the time. But it is a nice idea.
I think what they should have done is perhaps have a overview of the actual track and let players decide on the calls. So that make a bit more technical, a little bit more demanding for the co-driver to actually keep up with all the different calls and stuff. So but as it is, if it's just a button prompt, it's like playing like Parappa the Rapper. It's just going to be silly and forgettable.
Yeah, a fun little addition, put it that way, but not a game changer in terms of rally driving games. There was somebody asking, actually, would it be a way to get that working with the standard experience? And the only way you could do something like that would be if you got a game to connect to your mobile phone, and so only your friend with a mobile phone could see the directions, and he'd have to tell you what to do. That would be the only way to do something like that. because there are games that on your PlayStation that already connect to your mobile phone.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It does seem a little bit half-baked in that regard.
So no, it's a nice little addition if you've got VR. If you haven't got VR, well, you're stuffed. So let's see if they've got any more big announcements up their sleeve. It's going to be a huge year, despite this super quiet week.
No, that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, though, it is still a new racing game VR experience for PlayStation VR, which is something we need at the moment. As VR is your only choice at the moment, and that was a bit disappointing.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing. I mean, it's just so blurry, such a shame. But we'll see what else comes up in the following months. I mean, Codemasters have already got Formula 1 running at 60 frames per second. They'll optimize that further. They may have 2 less cars on the grid this year if Manor aren't in the team. That means F1 could probably be working well on VR. So we could have F1 VR to look forward to this year. We could have Gran Turismo. We could have Project Cars 2. You know, all with different VR racing experiences, plus titles that we're not even aware of yet. So I'm sure there's some good experiences on the way, and they're just going to get better and better.
Yeah, absolutely. The other big talking point at the moment in the games industry is, of course, the reveal of the Nintendo Switch console. With that came plenty of new racing game announcements, which we'll get to shortly. I have to say that overall, I was quite bitterly disappointed with the presentation. I remember waking up that morning thinking, I might possibly pre-order this. I quite liked the initial reveal video a couple of months ago. I thought, it looked quirky. It plays to Nintendo's strengths. If it had a solid launch lineup, then who knows? If it hadn't at the right price, I might pre-order it. And then I saw the presentation. In fact, I can't remember seeing such a switch in public perception, really. No pun intended. People were all over it before, and it just doesn't seem to have gone down very well, unless you're a hardcore Nintendo fan. Alan really is our resident Pokemon player. So did the Switch win you over, Alan?
Oh, absolutely won me. No, it didn't. Actually, it didn't win me over at all. For me, Nintendo, I mean, as a fan of gaming, an old school fan, the last Nintendo machine I bought was a GameCube. I wasn't interested in the Wii. I wasn't interested. Yes, look at Fun Bowling. Okay, yeah, I'm bored now. It's an add-on. It's not a console, is it? It's just that you could release that controller and plug it into any console, frankly. So here we are then with, and the other thing I see is just Nintendo, where's the creativity? Yes, they make great games, but they're using the same old brands, and so now we see the Switch. Now we see Switch. What's going to be released for the Switch, everybody? We're going to release a new Mario. They're going to release a new Zelda, probably a new Donkey Kong. They'll release a new Pokemon, perhaps a few other brands. They had Splatoon recently. They might redo that. Might redo a Pikmin. They haven't done F-Zero for a long time. Or they might have a new Star Fox. What do we know? It's just the same stuff dished up again to people. And the fans are so sort of avid that they will just continue to buy it, whatever. I spoke to some people today, friends of mine, who are just saying, I'm going to buy one. Why are you going to buy one? Because I want the new Zelda. That's it. You're going to spend perhaps £500 all said and done when you're buying all the extra memory. It's quite expensive. I mean, you need to get people saying that, you need to buy more memory because there's not enough onboard memory. If you download Zelda, it takes up 40% of the memory. If you're charging the console, it takes 3 hours to charge, but can run out of power in 2.5 hours. The grips that you get with it can't be charged or something like that. So you need to buy new grips. So that's going to cost you an extra £50-60, and then what the game's going to cost £40 each for a game they're talking about.
Somewhere about £50.
Yeah, and Deluxe £50.
Yeah, so £50, for what feels like a rehash, if you like. It doesn't even feel like a completely new game. So, I mentioned it on my blog last week. I've got my JXD. I bought this console, this handheld gaming system, a couple of years ago. It's a revelation. Okay, a revelation to me. It plays all of my games. It has a 720p screen, just like this other thing. It's a third of the price, and it's a brilliant system. I can get so much from it. And I look at the Switch, and I think it's a bit bigger, the Switch, so it doesn't fit in your pocket. They tried that. It doesn't fit in your back jean pocket or anything like that. You need a bag to put it in. So it's not as portable And yeah, I think games wise, I mean, it's just an expensive handheld, but Nintendo know that when they release Pokemon, that millions of people will buy it, whether it's good or not. So in that sense, it's a bit disappointing. So yeah, I think, what am I disappointed with? I'm disappointed with the lineup. Mario looks okay, but I don't like the city environment stuff. I saw someone actually made a Mario mod for Grand Theft Auto. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
And at first, they actually fooled me. At first, I thought, "Oh, what's this? This is a Mario video." No, it wasn't. It did look surprisingly like the actual Mario game. And then, yeah, Street Fighter. So what? Street Fighter. I mean, you can get that on emulation or anything else. You've got Sonic. Well, I've got Sonic 1, 2, 3, and everything else. It's a new Sonic game. I know that Paul Roszczynski was talking about it, saying it's really good, but I can actually tell visually that the art style is weak. It's not as good as Sonic 2 artistically. It's much more in a vein with the sort of Sonic and Knuckles, a more standard sort of color palette that was much weaker than Sonic 2. So artistically, I can see the game is lacking artistically already. So it's like, as I say, people who make games now that are 2D games don't understand what makes good 2D graphics. If you reviewed that game in 1992, we'd have said it's not good because it doesn't have enough shading, it doesn't have enough colors, it doesn't use enough parallax scrolling. It's all this sort of stuff. That's what people were looking at back then. So people have forgotten. They've tried to almost make retro games more basic now. A lot of the 2D games that you see on the PlayStation 4 are terrible. They're just pixely. We like pixel art now. It's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. And if it was being reviewed 20 years ago, people would have just laughed it out the way. So yeah, I think at the moment it's very expensive for what it is. I think Nintendo know that they're going to sell it anyway, and they've got a guaranteed audience that are going to keep coming back to buy more. So it will sell.
It has sold. I mean, if you go on Amazon, it is sold out right now. It's sold out on the day.
Well, yeah, but again, that doesn't mean anything, does it? Because Nintendo might not have had that much stock available. So
they always do that. Every console they've released has had that same problem.
Yeah, so I don't know.
It's a typical marketing strategy to make it, to get it more in demand, basically, to make people want it more. It's a very underhand tactic. There you go.
It is weird. So I mean, from my perspective, no. I mean, for me, the JXD is the best handheld I've ever used, and the Switch just. I mean, did you also know that you have to pay a subscription to go online every month, but also.
I love this.
But also, you can download you get a free game every month, right? That they then take away. Now, when I say a free game, I'm talking like a NES game that's worth about 1p, or
they're basically just ROMs.
They're ROMs, and they take them away from you at the end of every month, unlike PlayStation Plus. Can you imagine if PlayStation Plus and Xbox started doing that as well? We're going to take your games away from you now. All those gold games you got, all those Plus games, we're taking them away. And at least those are modern games. These are games that Nintendo have made their money from over and over and over again, and people will buy the new console, and you can guarantee there's going to be thousands of people that are going to go out and buy some NES game again that they're going to play for all of 2 minutes, realize it's a bit crap, and then never play it again. So
I guess at this stage we don't know how much the subscription is yet, but even so, it's it's not acceptable, is it? No matter what.
No, it's.
It might be less. What I'm trying to say is it might be less than the PlayStation and the Xbox, which is £40 a year. In which case you would expect a bit less, but you'd at least expect to still own what they give you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty disgraceful move. It's disappointing if Nintendo fans let them get away with it. That's all I can say.
Also, if we look at the launch lineup, there are you can literally count the launch titles on one hand. There are 5 games.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Sony or Microsoft did that?
Yeah, I mean, it would, in this day and age, it's just not enough. And as I say, you've got other stuff like Fast Racing, Neo, and Redout and stuff, but there's nothing unique to that system. I mean, they're not unique to that system. So apart from Mario Odyssey, that's it. And I thought that Nintendo. Let's be fair, they've been very quiet for the last 2 years. And you think that's all they've got? I was expecting like 5 or 6 games at launch, with 5 or 6 more games ready to come up later in the year already. along with more
because some of the games
announcements.
are coming out quite soon after launch, like a month or two away. So in which case, why didn't they just wait and launch the console then when there's more to play on it? They just seem to be rushing out the door to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to be, doesn't it, that they're just, you know, they've got to. I mean, for their investors and everything else. I mean, I think what it is, Nintendo have been on a roll. They've had the Pokemon Go frenzy last year, which wasn't officially them, I know, but they've benefited from it. They've had Mario Run recently, and they're saying, look, guys, we're in the vogue when it comes to mobile stuff. Let's just get it out there. And so they've got it out there. I reckon that E3, they'll do another big announcement and they'll show off probably some stellar software at E3. They've probably got 2-3 more great games they're going to show off at E3. And I maybe more. But I think that's their plan, because they know that this will be a very strong show for Sony and Microsoft for various different reasons. So they're going to want something to fight back with, as we said. But they're very lucky at the moment that Sony have never done a very good job at marketing their handheld consoles. No. And Microsoft haven't entered that space at all, which is quite surprising.
No, I mean, I think as a handheld, it still could be impressive. Obviously, it won't compare to the GXD to you, but it is running at 720p resolution, which I imagine would look pretty good on a handheld. But it doesn't seem that portable, though. That's the only thing. For a handheld console, it does not seem very practical.
No.
Actually, is it just me? Actually, or when it's docked back onto the system, is it me, or it looks like a toaster?
I sort of see it.
It's like it's a £279 toaster. That's what.
It's I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see what it's like in console mode. I mean, a lot has been made of it in handheld mode, but we'll have to see what it's like in console mode, I think, to see how it works and what it's going to look like next to the other consoles coming out this year. Because somebody said, is this just a handheld or should it be considered a console? Nintendo says absolutely a console. Okay, it's not just a handheld. So okay.
I mean, primarily they seem to be marketing, at least from the presentation, they seem to be marketing the console side of it more than the handheld.
Yeah.
Which I thought was almost like a backward step compared to the initial reveal.
Yeah, because it's not
play on the plane. You can play it here. You can play
it's a console, exactly. So it's a console that's portable, but not that portable. It's got 720p display, and it's less powerful than your other gaming console. So in the living room, on a fair footing, it's underpowered compared to the PlayStation and Xbox. So it's lost that battle already. Loses that battle, and as a handheld, well, it's a bag held, isn't it? It's not a handheld; it's a bag held. So I think that it's got to find some identity, and I think there's that as well. But identity. I mean, to me personally, I'm not a Nintendo. I'm somebody. If Nintendo release good games, I'm all over it. I love Mario Kart. I love these games, but I'm not sold on the games. I'm not sold on Nintendo's lack of creativity. I don't want to buy the same games I had years ago, inferior versions of them, frankly. So it's.
I mean, in terms of racing games, we've got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which, let's face it, is a rehash of the original one on Wii U. It comes with all the DLC, but it's £50 for a 3-year-old game. I can't get my head around that.
No,
it does. It does run at a solid 60 frames, though, which you'll be happy about. Yeah,
I mean. I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy. No, you know what? It's fine. We've got. I think that Nintendo have had ups and downs, haven't they? I mean, when you go back to the NES era, they had loads of great games in the NES era. There was a piece on I can't remember what it is. There's a channel about this guy is right. It's a YouTube channel talking about how Nintendo got successful. They got successful because they were releasing more good games and they were controlling quality control. And I disagree with that whole area at the time. It was just down to the way they controlled licensing, and Sega and Nintendo handled it differently. They were strong with the NES. They had Rob the Robot and all these gimmicks around at the time, Duck Hunt and all that. Loved it. The NES was the most powerful system on the market. They did very well. But since the NES, they've not made good decisions overall. And dare I say, they've got lucky with marketing, and they've been very good with marketing. And they've got lucky in the sense they have, like you say, this avid fan base who
Yeah.
You know, I know that they were waiting to buy a Switch, and I said, well, you know, it's going to be Mario and Zelda. Yeah, I want Mario. I want Zelda.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy it. So that's that. So I mean, anything we say here really doesn't bear any effect on those people. But it does depend on the wider public at large. And if opinion is not great, and some of the public are not liking some of what they've heard, and I think the price. What I'm keen to see is when you buy you buy 4 games and all the equipment you need with it, and it's going to be like £600. Not a cheap piece of kit.
No, not in the slightest. Interested to see Redout make an appearance, though. In fact, the release date for that was announced in March, which might give some indication as to when we can expect it on the PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah,
and it's getting a physical retail release, which I wasn't expecting.
No, that was a big surprise. We had no idea on that.
It was the best news out of the whole presentation.
It was a great bit of news, actually. Redout deserves more exposure, as I've said for some time. And, some of the Redout videos don't have as many views. It is a great shame because they don't have the marketing budget. But I hope people play it and enjoy it. And I hope that being on a system with so few games available at launch increases the chance of it being bought with the hardware. And if there is a chance to show it running, then I'll try and get us an opportunity to get some video here of that in action.
Then we also have Fast RMX, which again is just Fast Racing Neo. As far as I could see, it's the same game with maybe different ships and slightly better graphics. What I did find quite funny was that in the presentation, it wasn't actually formally announced. It was just shown in a brief bit of video, like a montage. And people thought that was F-Zero. Because no name was mentioned, people just thought that was an official F-Zero entry. Yeah. Which I thought was quite funny. Again, they need to bring that series back. Anyway, so what were you going to say, Kevin?
Yeah, I've been intrigued to see Redout for the consoles. I mean, based off what Alan was saying about the handling model, it's quite a bit of nuance to it. And although, we've seen many futuristic races, released previously and coming in the near future, it just seems to carve out its own sort of niche with this control system. And, it'd be interesting to see how the console owners, what they make of Redout, because, it's one of those titles that we've been missing for so long on the consoles. But the problem is, of course, with the recent announcement of the Wipeout Omega Collection.
I know.
It's going to hurt. Formula Fusion, yeah. We've got Distance as well coming. I mean...
Yeah. That's if it came out last year alongside the PC release, it would have been fine.
And much like Fast Racing Neo, if that was released, last year on the consoles, and they've missed it now, and there's no chance of it releasing now or there's no point, because I don't think they're going to make very much money because we've got all these futuristic races.
That's it.
Yeah, it's going to be so busy, isn't it? I mean, it's a shame really that some of them weren't able to get out the door, and Redout in particular. I think Fast Racing Neo really had the best opportunity, and it seemed like they just didn't take it. But I can't believe the conversion process would have been that big to release the same software on PlayStation. It just seems
it's bizarre.
It seemed like a no-brainer.
In very small indie titles make the conversion to console, so it does make the mind boggle sometimes why they opt out of the sort of console market.
I think they were maybe banking on the kind of F-Zero fan base, possibly on Nintendo, but even said, like you said, it is restricting the audience quite a bit. Fast RMX as well. It doesn't really roll off the tongue like Fast Racing Neo, does it?
No, it doesn't, and it doesn't continue the brand that people are already aware of. So, you've already built up a brand around it. It just seems a bit strange. Yeah.
One last thing, actually, I was also quite disappointed with, while we're still on the subject of Nintendo. They've kind of gone back to their motion controller ways, I noticed. This wasn't really shown much in the first reveal, but in the presentation, it was like watching the Wii conference again with the motion controls. They seem to be clinging on to that, like we're over that. I don't know why they're still clinging on to that market.
Yeah,
it's quite cringy to watch.
I think
as well,
because the way they look at it is like you say, they'll probably release another sports title for it, and they want to try and another fitness title for it and stuff. One of the things actually that we haven't highlighted that a lot of people seem to love about it is the rumble feature.
yes.
4D Rumble. And I saw somebody say, he was handed the device and he was told there's a marble in there. If you roll it around, how many marbles are in there? And he was able to count how many marbles were in there. So it felt physically like marbles were in there rolling around. So the detail you can get from various different games is immense. And I think that definitely that feature, you'll be seeing more of it at the E3. But yeah, they're going to be aiming for something to do with travel and fitness and everything else with it, no doubt. You'll see Animal Crossing, Mark II and all that. So all those good old favorites.
Just rehashes of what we've seen before.
Yeah.
That's really what I mostly get from the presentation. It's just nothing really new that we haven't seen before.
No, it's like watching an episode of Top Gear, isn't it? It is though. It is. You've seen it all before, and they're putting the same stuff forward. And I think the thing with Nintendo, like you say, Nintendo fans don't care. They just want the same and same again. But for me, it's the creativity of Nintendo that drew me to them. But I was just saying earlier, they were doing really well with the SNES, and then the N64, they kind of lost their way a bit with the N64. And then the game, by the time the GameCube came out, I think the GameCube was a magnificent system, but it just wasn't supported in quite the right way.
It flopped, didn't it?
Yeah, and it was a shame because it really deserved to do better. It was a great system.
It was a very, very capable console for its time.
Yeah, I mean, some of the graphics on it were amazing at that time.
Yeah,
but,
I've said it before, but that Star Wars game, I swear, still looks good today.
Yeah, it was.
Granted, it's not in high definition, but there's so much going on screen. It's amazing how it copes with it.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing how some. I mean, F-Zero GX just blew my mind at the time.
I need to play that. I've never played that one, I must admit.
It was incredible, visually amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, there we are. That's our main faults, I think, summed up on the Nintendo Switch. Sadly, not convinced as of yet, but we'll wait and see. It might develop in time, but who knows? Anyway, moving on then to some racing game news. Not there was an awful lot, other than obviously Dirt Rally VR. But there's a new track coming to RaceRoom Racing Experience. We're getting a new track called Mantorp Park, which is not a circuit I'm familiar with, I must admit. Apparently it's a road circuit based in Sweden, and that's about all we know about it, really.
We will drive it when it comes out.
Has it ever featured in another game before?
It probably has. It probably has. I mean, it sounds familiar. I've probably driven it. I just can't remember off the top of my head. Dare I say it? It does sound familiar. So, I've driven so many tracks. I forget.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, we've got screenshots of that on the website, so do check that out. Also, it looks like we're getting another Micro Machines game on the consoles, which I guess isn't surprising. It's a series we haven't seen in a while, but Codemasters seem to be slowly but surely bringing it back. We had, what was it called? I want to say Tabletop Racing, but it's not that. Toy Box Turbos, that's it.
Yeah.
That was on the last gen consoles a while back, and rumor has it this new one, it's called Micro Machines World Series, will be based on that one, but released for the newer consoles. I'm thinking, do we really need that when we've got so many top-down mini races at the moment?
Yeah, and it's like they've almost stolen the name from Tabletop Racing, because Tabletop Racing was World Tour, and Codemasters have gone with World Series. So, yeah, I'd love to see it. I mean, I do miss the Micro Machines games. The last game I really sort of put a lot into was the V3 on the PlayStation 1. So for me personally, it's been, it's many, many years. And the last title was V4, the last main title, and that's over 10 years ago. So we're well due a Micro. Yeah, we're well due a Micro Machines, aren't we? It's about time Codemasters actually, released one. I mean, like you said, they released Toy Box Turbos. I guess that was to put dip the toes in, see if the market was there, and I guess there was, and so they've come up with, hopefully.
But again, that game came out too late though, because it was on PS3 at a time when the PS4 was already out. That was that period when all the games weren't being released on the new gen consoles, and they kind of suffered from it. It's almost like they're catching up.
Yes, we had was it Grid Auto Sports and
and F1 2014, I think it was.
Yeah, so that's 3 titles straight away from Codemasters. So yeah,
they were kind of stopgaps until obviously the bigger sequels like Dirt Rally and F1 2015.
Yeah, it's almost like they thought at the last minute, oh, we've got to release a Micro Machines like game on the PS3 because we haven't done it yet, and just rushed out Toy Box. But no, Toy Box was a good game. It's very quirky, had some nice colourful sort of aesthetic to it, had a nice range of vehicles, was a fun little game, and I just hope they can make a decent Micro Machines this time around that really sort of does justice to the long running series.
Yeah, I guess what will set that apart from tabletop racing is, of course, well, we presume it'll be top down, whereas obviously tabletop racing was behind the car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, I can imagine if this Micro Machines game does come out, I can imagine it'd be with VR support, where you can actually look around the environments and the tables and check out all the various cereal boxes and bowls and big plates and stuff like that. And you know, it could be a bit of fun.
They might have motion controls where you could interact with the environment and.
No, you're right. I don't want that. No.
You never know. Yeah, nothing much else to say about that because it hasn't been formally announced, to be honest, by Codemasters. We got a sort of art render on the website, but there's no screenshots or video yet.
No.
It's really hard to judge.
Yeah, it could be a throw. We could see many of the old environments sort of remastered, if you like, and it'd be nice to see almost like a compilation, I guess. The World Series name suggests to me that it could well be some sort of combination of all these titles of old sort of put together into one big fine mess.
Yeah, that's it. It could be a bit of a sleeper hit because I think there are still fans of Micro Machines, and obviously it has the IP to its advantage compared to, say, tabletop racing or any of the other sort of mini racing games we've seen lately.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a strong brand, isn't it? I mean, it could do very well if it's a decent game, certainly.
If the price is right.
Yeah. As
well. Also, interesting, looking at the image on the website, there does seem to be a retail release for it.
Yeah, I think that was on NeoGAF, this box art. So who knows? I hope it's real, but we just don't know until we get an official announcement from Codemasters, and hopefully it'll be soon because when stuff leaks, normally you get confirmation pretty quickly, don't you?
Yeah, the cat's kind of out of the bag now.
Yeah, exactly. And, Codemasters were hinting for announcements, and we've had the Dirt Rally. Maybe Micro Machines was the other announcement this month.
Maybe
who knows?
That's a big announcement.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that big.
Big to some people.
No, it's not that big, is it? I mean, it's we need something big. We need a new racing game. So
yeah, I mean, after Dirt Rally, I was kind of expecting a light-hearted game to release from Codemasters, and Micro Machines would actually be perfect.
Yes, definitely. Elsewhere, we've also had a new off-road racing game announced called ATV Renegades. That's coming on March 14th for PS4 and Xbox One. My goodness, a racing game that's come out this year that has a release date. We haven't seen many of those so far.
Yeah.
What can we say about this game? It reminds me a little bit of Pure, but not as polished.
Yeah. Sort of Mad Riders, maybe.
Yeah, it looks a bit dated to me.
Yeah, it does. It's going to be one of those titles that it'll come out, you'll play it once or twice, and you probably forget about it. And either it needs to have something special, isn't it, to have any sort of longevity. And who knows? It could be a fun title, but we do judge by the screenshots. We do sort of, a lot of people make up their minds before release, and often the graphics are a good barometer of the sort of game itself, how much effort they put into the finer details. Normally when the graphics are not quite up to par, the rest of the game tends to suffer as well, not quite up to standard. So, but we don't judge a book by its cover, and we just have to wait and see until it comes out to make our minds up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess there is a market at the moment as well for light-hearted arcade races like this on the PlayStation and Xbox One stores. So we'll wait and see. I mean, there's no video out for it yet, so we can't really judge it too harshly.
No, and like you say, with the previous game we was talking about, it's going to be all about the price, really. If it's
yes,
it needs to be under £10, doesn't it, to succeed? I think.
It's just, again, judging from the screens, though, it just doesn't look that original, does it? When we recently had Mad Riders on the PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, I mean, does it need to be original?
Of the month.
As long as the game is fun, I don't really care too much about originality, because we get so many serious races now, so many complicated games, that it's nice to actually go back to a simplified game. you know, games like Mantis Burn, Tabletop Racing, and Riptide for me last year was fantastic fun. And it was nice just to go back to the sort of simple racing games. So as long as the fun element is there, you know, it's all good with me.
I guess it's probably just because Mad Riders is still quite fresh in my mind.
Yeah, Mad Riders is very fast paced as well. So
yeah, very.
If it's going up against the
fast,
life of that, you know, it's got to have some speed about it. So yeah, wait till it's in motion. But yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath for a fantastic game here.
No, exactly. Right, I think that's about it then for the news this week. I wouldn't mind actually just catching up a bit on the Grand Tours. We didn't have time for that last week. There's been a couple of episodes since we last discussed it. What was the last episode? Oh yeah, it's the one with that coral reef bit.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Did you watch that one, Kevin?
I did, yeah.
Did you manage to enjoy the entire episode? Because I struggled.
I did watch it, yeah.
I must admit, I spent more time looking at my watch than that episode.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the Alfa Romeo, was it Julia Quadrifoglio review? That was good. I thought it was very simple. It was back to sort of Clarkson in the car. There wasn't a massive amount of special effects or anything. It was very sort of back to basics, and I did enjoy that. But the actual main segment of the coral reef, oh goodness, it was.
I get the feeling what we saw there was basically them going on holiday. They make it into a segment for the Grand Tour.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh.
Again, we said it before, but it's one of those segments that, you know, should have been 10 minutes long at most, and it was half the episode basically.
Yeah. See, I thought that was the last episode in the series, but apparently there's 3 more episodes. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought originally it was supposed to be a 10-episode series, but
I thought it was 12, but it's actually 13 apparently.
Okay, so we were both wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I didn't end it on that. Put it that way. You know, they need to end the series on a massive, you know, a really car content heavy, you know, real barnstorm of an episode like they did with the first one. That was fantastic. And they haven't, in my opinion, they haven't superseded.
I've been wondering that myself, how they're going to finish it, because when you look back at the montage preview, there's not that much in there that they haven't shown. I know the next episode looks potentially good. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for it yet.
No, I haven't actually seen that. No.
It's a cheap car challenge. Remember them?
Okay.
Where
Any details?
All we know is they drive. They buy 3 used Maseratis with their own money, and they drive them through France. That's all we know.
Okay.
You can guarantee they'll break down. They'll catch fire.
Block traffic.
Pull pranks on each other.
Thousands and thousands of people will turn up as if out of the blue. You know, they haven't been told on Twitter or Facebook. No. Yeah.
It could still be good. I mean, the cheap car challenges were sometimes some of the highlights of the series of Top Gear, but
yeah.
Again, I'm still craving for something new, something I haven't seen before that doesn't follow that same formula we've seen for the last 10 or so years.
That's the thing. I mean, there's been a lot of talk that the BBC have restricted their formula. We couldn't do the things we wanted to do because of the BBC this and the BBC that and the BBC the other. And now they're free of the BBC. They don't seem to be.
Yeah, that says don't try so hard to be what you were before then.
Yeah.
Always seems to me like when I watch an episode of the Grand Tour, I think, oh, that was excellent. And then the second half comes on and it was terrible. It's like 50% good, 50% bad.
Yeah.
It's pretty much.
Yeah, I've never uttered the word excellent when it comes to the Grand Tour, actually. But the first program was good. It was very good, actually. But honestly, as an overall picture of the Grand Tour, it's okay-ish. You know, it's even worse than okay for me. For me, Top Gear was better. Yeah, unfortunately. What was the other episode actually for last week's? That was one of the excellent, wasn't it? I believe so. Yeah, that was was that the 2-part? Or no, that was the buggies special with the buggies. Yeah, which I nearly fell asleep watching. So the excellent was after. That was on with the. Not to remember, it was the MGB off-roader, which is not something you see every day. I quite enjoyed that. I mean, it was silly, but it didn't outstay its welcome. You know, it was just the right pace. Yeah, it was okay. It was okay. Well, it wasn't like vintage good. It wasn't brilliant. But, I mean, you were saying about the car challenge. You know, okay, it's something they've done many times before. But you know what? I actually like all that. Because I know it's going to be better than what I've seen so far, the Grand Tour. Oh yeah, I do as well. Yeah, it's like, back to roots, back to what they know what's going to work. Well, we know it's going to work, so it's a tried and tested formula. So it's going to be better.
Like I said before, the cheap car challenges were usually some of my favourite scenes in the old Top Gear series. So
yeah,
I do have quite high hopes for the.
They seemed a bit more spontaneous, didn't they? And they seem to be having genuine fun with.
Yeah,
it's all this scripting nonsense. I just can't understand it. They've been friends for how many years now? Why do they feel the need to script something? When you've been friends, really close friends for so many years, you're going to have banter that's going to be natural. You're going to have things happen. Why have they not got the confidence to say, let's just film a few days, we'll whack it all together, we'll sort of good funny bits, we'll just edit it all together, and there you go, boom it out the door. Yeah. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Again, the coral reef scene was just proof of that. It was so heavily scripted to the point it was embarrassing. Oh no, we dropped the car onto the boat, and
there was a scene like that in Top Gear a couple of years ago when they were doing one where I can't remember, they were driving ambulances or something, and they were in some place, and it would just went on a bit too long, and there was a scene where somebody drove through a wall or something, and it was like quite scripted. And sometimes some of the best stuff I've seen with those guys is like they've done a few videos recently where they're just sitting around a table talking about something, or they're playing that Aniki Overdrive or something, and it's just them talking. I actually find it more fun than the scripted stuff sometimes.
Yeah, that's the thing. But even that doesn't work in the Grand Tour. Like when you go to what do they call it, Conversation Street, you can just tell it's scripted, and that ruins it.
Yeah.
Like the news used to be so spontaneous and fun.
The last episode, they actually brought in another one of those fight scenes, didn't they? When they was taking the mickey out of the USA. And we saw a fight scene again that we saw, I believe it was in the first episode, I think.
That's right.
I couldn't believe my eyes. What was going on there? Who thought that was a good idea to actually bring it back? Cringe. Absolute cringe.
And they're still doing Celebrity Brain Crash for some... God,
it's just a dig at the BBC for not letting them, interview the celebs. But,
it's like it's a joke that it should have just been in one episode.
Does that mean they're not coming on then?
I know. I just cringed when I would just wait for him to say that again. Oh yeah, get on with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, mixed responses into the Grand Tour. Like I said,
time.
I'm quite looking forward to the next episode with the cheap car challenge, but no doubt we'll complain about it next week.
I hope not.
I hope not. And with that, I think it's time then for our Q&A this week. Actually, our first one comes from YouTube. Someone with the username Sesto Elemento, good name. He says, well, we don't know. Which Need for Speed is your favourite and why? Oh my god, there's quite a lot to choose from. We're talking like 20 years worth of games there. I know Alan's going to say the first one.
Well, it would always be, for me, it's a combination. I love the first Need for Speed on the 3DO. I also love the first Need for Speed on the PlayStation 1. They're based on the same game, but they play completely differently. That's... those are the ones that really appeal to me. I think the 3DO one at its time we had braking distances. It was about driving. It had incredible graphics, field of view. And it was about, you've never driven a Lamborghini, jump in here and you can see what it's like to drive a Lamborghini. And there was something about it convincing at that time, graphically. And then when it released on the PlayStation, a year or so later, it was immediately disappointing at first. The handling had completely gone. They turned it into an arcade game. But there was aspects that were still there, and it ran a lot better and smoother than the 3DO version. And I just... eventually loved it. I loved it for what it was as a different game, and I just had hours and hours of fun on it. And graphically, it was solid. I mean, it went right downhill in Need for Speed 2. It got a bit better again in Need for Speed 3. But yeah, that first one on the PlayStation 1 was, and the 3DO was definitely my favourite. Right up until Most Wanted on the 360.
It's difficult to decide for me. I mean, I've got a soft spot actually for Road Challenge, or High Stakes as it's called elsewhere, because it's the first one I ever played. I don't know if that's really most people's favourite though. I think that seemed to be one of the more underrated games because it came just after Hot Pursuit, I believe. I'm probably just going to say the Criterion Games Hot Pursuit game, because that really rebooted the franchise. To me, that was a better reboot for the franchise than the last Need for Speed we saw on the current consoles?
I think for me, it's like it's a toss-up, really. I did enjoy Undercover. I know many people didn't. I liked Need for Speed Pro Street as well. I enjoyed. I like the fact that you could have like a drag car, a drift car, like a grip car as well, and you had all the various tuning and bits and pieces. That was quite a fun game. There you go, Dog agrees. And I suppose elsewhere, Need for Speed Underground. You know, I could put a different answer every week. You ask me that about Need for Speed because my answer changes all the time. But I'd probably go with Need for Speed Underground.
Yeah, no, Underground was a good game, actually. I remember, obviously, graphically, it was based on the Fast and the Furious. It was nighttime. It had amazing light effects, these sort of streams of light. And it looked really cool. And, it has a big following. I think Underground 2, in particular, has a massive following. And it sold hugely well that December. Christmas #1 and everything. But yeah, I never really was a fan of Underground 2 myself. I always just found it a bit shoddy in the way it was made. And, having known there was a few problems within it as well, it was quite buggy as well at that time. I mean, EA's online was a bit of a mess in that era. It has to be said on some of their titles. So, yeah, it was. But either way, visually, it was nice for the time. Martin, what's your favourite Need for Speed then?
Like I said before, for me, it's a toss-up between Road Challenge because that's the first one I ever played. So I'm a bit biased there, but I think that was a very solid game in its own right. For me, I'm probably going to go with Hot Pursuit, the Criterion Games version, simply because it really brought the series back on track. At that point, Need for Speed was going downhill quite rapidly for a lot of people when you have releases like Underground and Pro Street, which although Kevin seemed to like them, most people didn't. It seemed to damage the brand quite a bit because it went into a bit of an identity crisis where one year you'd have a street racing game, the next year you'd have a track racing game, and so on and so on. It kind of lost its way, but then Criterion Games came in and they really knocked it out of the park. So yeah, I'm going to go with Hot Pursuit. By far the best one. It's released in the last few years for sure. In fact, it's a better reboot than the last Need for Speed game released on PS4 and Xbox One. Yeah, that was a proper reboot for the franchise that did well, unlike this one. Right, so next question. Over onto Facebook then. Brett Gay says, how is Gran Turismo Sport shaping up in terms of graphics, handling, and engine sounds? Personally, I played that game for literally 2 minutes, so I can't really answer that. And it was on mute.
Yeah, exactly. So we can't say the audio, but visually, it's getting shinier. So it has more and more luster with every build.
Oh, it's look good. Every build is looking better, but again, until we see it, I mean, I haven't played it since getting on a year, isn't it? It'll be in March or something, and I've not seen any development yet to make me go, wow, this is. I mean, graphically, it's very nice and shiny, but so previous versions, I mean, audio just seems to be sort of tacked on. So we'll have to wait to see.
It almost looks too shiny to me. I've always find this with Gran Turismo games. They look too perfect. They look better than real life almost. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I remember looking back at Gran Turismo 2000. We had those images, those extremely shiny cars. Oh my God, did they get me excited at the time? It was incredible.
I know. All the lighting effects, the sun effects.
I mean, how does it handle? Is it a typical Gran Turismo handling, or is it leaning more towards like Assetto Corsa? Is it pretty safe Gran Turismo style? Or?
Well, I think it's always been quite simmy. I mean, I find they get a hard time because the tyre model was a bit rigid and the suspension was a bit rigid in the way it conveyed. They didn't convey forces very well, so the experience got labelled clinical. But a lot of the braking and stuff was reasonably genuine. The cars just didn't move around enough. So I think that they, physics-wise, it seemed to be intuitive. But in terms of comparison, like we were talking about Assetto Corsa, the difference of every car and how different every car is, that's the thing that we're not going to know until we've actually got proper time with it. you know,
Yeah.
which you just can't get at a preview event. You know, you jump on, you test one car, you move on, you test another car. You don't really have time to relate the two, and you record the video footage or whatever photos that you need to do the article. But when you got it at home, you could sit there and do tons of laps and really look at how the cars behave, and then try that with another car, do tons of laps, and you work out where you're changing gear, you know, how does tire temperature affect things, all the rest of it. But again, all that's a long way off yet, isn't it? I mean, we may not see the game now until it's actually released. I mean, they are very guarded with it.
Let's not forget too, as well, that obviously Gran Turismo is such a massive franchise for Sony. It's unlikely to be too hardcore. Yeah,
You know, I did mention bringing in a potential like hardcore mode in the future, but
Yeah.
as I said before, because it's like a sport, esports focused, they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna split, you know, the players in between the sort of hardcore and the normal handling. So it's unlikely to see that.
probably
But
not.
hopefully in GT7, whenever that will release, we'll have a hardcore handling mode, because that'll make everyone happy, I think.
Yeah, so next question. Marty Park says, what is Dirt Rally's plans for this year? New game? Are there any new game plans or DLC? We don't know. Codemasters won't tell us.
We're hoping for DLC, but it's likely they'll release a sequel, isn't it, this year? Let's be honest. But we're praying for some DLC.
It needs some DLC, damn it. That's like you won't hear us say that very often, actually begging for DLC for a game.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it doesn't need DLC, doesn't it? It really needs it, you know. And I mean, are they going to release DLC, or are they going to release a new game altogether? You know, are they going to release Dirt Rally VR, get all the money in they can for that, and then suddenly announce Dirt Rally 2 coming in a year?
Yeah, possibly.
And then
It does feel like in the day now to release more DLC. That's the thing. You know, Dirt Rally it's nearly a year old now.
Yeah, it's getting on that way, isn't it? You know,
it's older than that on PC, I believe.
Yeah, we were expecting DLC. We were expecting more stages to be added, and I think it has been disappointing that they haven't added those things.
Yeah, and like we said, you know, Dirt Rally keep promising us Codemasters keep promising us something really big, and they haven't really delivered that yet. So we're still holding on to hope.
Yeah,
basically. Karen Jameson says, what are your thoughts and expectations on the Xbox Scorpio with Forza Motorsport 7? We kind of covered this before, but yeah, we expect Forza Motorsport 7 to be absolutely mind-blowing with all those extra teraflops. Massive potential for that. Like we keep saying, the mind boggles as to how much more they can really squeeze out of the hardware with Forza.
Absolutely, because I mean, yes, you've got two graphics cards on the market that are more powerful, but this is a combined unit. There's also a different way in which the operating system works on it, so it gives it more power essentially, because the way the operating system is going to split into different things for different services that it's running, so it doesn't drain anything from the CPU. So, you know, in terms of utilizing the power of that hardware, they will be able to utilize every ounce and get even more from it than they can, you know, per CPU on current systems. So you're going to see graphics pushed to whole new levels on that system, you know, potentially, but not just graphics. It's going to allow a lot more in terms of physics and dynamics, in terms of environments and stuff like that. You know, I don't have all the details now, but you know, a cloud, the cloud will have its own sort of processing that's separate on the operating system and so on. So, you know, it doesn't interfere with what you're actually doing and in terms of the actual processing of the game. So, yeah, I think, you know, for me, visuals and general audio and everything has never been a problem with Forza Motorsport. The structure, saying that some of the AI and some of the races can tend to be a bit weird in terms of a bit easy or whatever, but they need some more single race lap modes, so you can have like 20 laps and pit stops and everything. But it's all about handling with a wheel. It's not good enough currently, just not good enough. Fnatic released that statement that it's going to be much improved on the future, you know, system. That's what we want to hear. So, I mean, the jury's out now until I play it, probably at Gamescom or something like that. We'll see what it's all about.
Yeah, obviously lots of potential there, but just wait for E3 and we'll know for sure then. Pete Hugzuk says, I love Project Cars, but it gets a lot of criticism for not having laser scan tracks. How do you feel about that? And how do you think it could affect Project Cars 2 if it still doesn't have them?
Some tracks are laser scanned in Project Cars. Brands Hatch and a few others. They are laser scanned. I think as long as a lot of the different mapping techniques they have can provide very accurate circuits now in terms of elevation changes. Where the laser scanning comes in is really a minute detail in terms of the bumps and the actual feeling of texture of surface. I would assume that there is texture within reason to simulate that to an extent. So I don't think that laser scanning is the be all and end all in the world. I don't think for a game like this that it's absolutely essential for everything, but it depends on, like, if someone said to me, right, would you rather one laser scan track or 6 tracks that have been made with schematics and other sort of photographic data with computer data? Would I rather 1 or 6 tracks? I'd rather the 6 tracks. It gives me more to race. And then if it means they make another version, they have another laser scan track, then so be it. I think if you're really serious and you want laser scan tracks for everything, go play iRacing. That's the serious end of the table. But I think for something like this,
That's a course.
It's nice to have some laser scan tracks, but as long as the modeling is done, with the schematics, with the correct details, and they have satellite information, they have everything now to make sure that within reason the track is structurally correct, then we're only really talking about very minute bumps that will matter more to racing drivers than anyone else. But if essentially the track takes a life of its own because it will have its own structure and bumps and stuff like that. But let's get things straight. No game is perfect. I mean, even when a sim like iRacing has laser scan data, it doesn't mean its physics are perfect. It doesn't mean its physics are perfectly applied to that circuit. Oh, right now they might be the best. Someone will say, yeah, but we'll come back to this in 20 years' time, and you'll be saying, cool, look at those rubbish physics on those games that we used to think were really good. That's just the way it is. So yeah. I think it's a good addition, but I think that it's not necessarily essential for Project Cars. As long as they
I mean, for me, the strength of Project Cars is the overall package. It's all the different disciplines, all different race cars and tracks. And, I'd much rather they expanded on those disciplines and tracks than, put a lot of time into laser scanning a few different tracks. I'd much rather have quantity without sacrificing quality, I guess. So you don't really need laser scan tracks to really make a real convincing motorsport experience. And I think Project Cars is the evidence of that.
I was just going to say, I think Sebastian Loeb Rally is a good example of that, where the tracks weren't laser scanned, but there's still a good variety of courses, and they're still accurate because they're based on GPS data and all this sort of thing. I think laser scanning does tend to hold developers back because it just takes so much time to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Alan said, it's not the be all and end all. Yes, no, it's nice to have.
It seems like Project Cars 2 is looking to refine their physics. So, in the future, we may well see laser scan tracks, but again, that's going to be something in the future. Once they've got the physics down completely into a sort of simulation market, more like a Assetto Corsa. I mean, it's most of the way there, I guess, but it's not quite there. But once they do get to Assetto Corsa standards, then I guess we can look forward to laser scan tracks after. But it's the frilly bits, isn't it, on top of the already diverse and impressive package.
Yeah, exactly. Over onto Twitter then. Luna says, any opinions on a Ridge Racer 8 for current gen? I miss Ridge Racer actually. I mean, it's been so long since we've had a Ridge Racer launch title. Not since the Vita, I believe. And that one was terrible.
Yeah, even Ridge Racer 7 was God knows how many years ago now. It's quite a while.
That was a PS3 launch title, so we're talking over 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, the people who made Ridge Racer are long gone now. The people who made the greatest Ridge Racer games, and I can easily say 1 to 5 were head and shoulders the best Ridge Racer games. I mean, I love Rave Racer in the arcade. After that, they turned into this sort of new, really flat track, drifty style games. And the Vita one, the first one on the Vita was very good. I mean, it had the best intro ever at the time, like a computer.
Do you mean the PSP? Sorry, not the Vita.
Yeah, PSP. Sorry, on the PSP.
Yeah.
blew my
Great
mind.
game.
Absolutely amazing. But yeah, Ridge Racers. I mean, I got Ridge Racer on the Xbox 360 when it was released, completed all that and everything else, but it didn't have the soul of Ridge Racer. The track was so flat, and it would jump, when it would jump, it just felt so rigid, and the soul of Ridge Racer wasn't in those games. So, will we see another Ridge Racer? You know, I think we will one day, but I don't know when. You know, Ridge Racer, it would be so nice to see it launch with new hardware. It would be so nice to see a new Ridge Racer for the Scorpio, you know, that would run in 4K or something, look amazing. Maybe we will. But
yeah.
I don't know.
I think Ridge Racer always used to be a great showcase of new hardware, didn't it? Like the new PlayStation and, you know, each successive PlayStation up to the PS3. That was the game you bought to really show off your console. And again, with the PSP, I remember seeing that when it first came out. I thought, wow, it's like having a PS2 on the go. It really sold that idea.
Yeah.
And likewise, the original PlayStation, that was like having an arcade in your home.
Yeah.
It was an amazing time. Of course, it didn't have the frame rate or didn't quite have the fidelity, but yeah, he had the soundtrack, he had the sort of experience there, and it was phenomenal at the time. So I'd always have a soft spot for Ridge Racer. But yeah, we need another Ridge Racer. It's been too long, hasn't it? We won't count the Unbounded by, was it Bugbear, I believe, made that one.
Yes.
So, you know, we're not great fans of that.
I didn't like that title at all. It's not been called Ridge Racer. It wasn't too bad in its own right, but it was a weird mix of Flat Out and Ridge Racer, and it was trying to be all urban, and I just didn't like it.
Yeah, it's lost its way, hasn't it, Ridge Racer, in recent last 3 or 4 titles. So they need to come back strong. They need to come back with the old identity that they had and just make it a really fun arcade title. And back to basics. You know, don't do all this drifty nonsense. You know, just keep it relatively sort of serious, but obviously with the elements as well.
It's a bit like Sega trying to make a Sonic game. The people who made the games great are not there anymore. And I think when they farmed out Ridge Racer to the Ridge Racer Unbounded guys, which actually was a fun racing game, I might point out, and deserved more success than it actually got, and I enjoyed what I played of it. The early preview versions looked terrible, but the final version was night and day, a different product from what we previewed, sadly. And, you know, that's a really good example of a game that came together in the last few weeks. And unfortunately, a lot of people looked at the previews and didn't go back. And we had a preview that was very popular. And,
I remember that.
Yeah, it was an excellent preview, wasn't it, Martin? And various different reasons. And people just didn't look at the game again, and then played the final game, really enjoyed it, but by then no one was looking. But it didn't have the soul of Ridge Racer. Though I have to admit, something about it felt more Ridge Racer to me than some of than 6, 7, and 8 in a way, or whatever it was. So was it 8 or 6 and 7? It just felt a bit more grittiness to it, but it wasn't a Ridge Racer game. I mean, and they don't have the right people to make it. I mean, look at Sega right now with Daytona 3. My God, it's a tragedy. But we're going to talk about that on another video. So, it's a shame. I look at some of these games and I do wonder who on earth do they get in to develop them sometimes. I mean, had you seen the original game and played it first? And it's even with Ridge Racer, they tried to do something new by breaking something that was good in the first place. And I think one of the things that was great about Ridge Racer was the atmosphere. It had a really nice atmosphere in this city. And I think it's generating that atmosphere in the city first. And getting
games where all the elements kind of fell into place to give this really unique experience.
Yeah, and I think Ridge Racer 5 probably brought it together the best, because that brought together a home driving game with very different styles of handling to the cars, but it had a wonderful atmosphere in it, and it modernized the title. So I think Ridge Racer 5 is actually the perfect blueprint to build upon if you're going to make a new Ridge Racer. That's Alan's advice.
And then, of course, the last Ridge Racer game we technically had was Ridge Racer Draw and Drift on the mobile platform, which I think says it all, frankly.
I remember that,
Quality racing gaming content.
Yeah, it just says everything you need to know about the current state of the Ridge Racer franchise.
Yeah.
A bit like the Driver one, really, isn't it? With the
we're not going there. I still haven't recovered from that.
No.
Next question then. Kahil Haddad on Twitter says, can you please advise when GT Sport will release on PS4, or at least a window? Probably about 2020 at this rate, if you're lucky. No, all we know is sometime this year. They haven't really suggested a release window, but traditionally, Gran Turismo usually comes out around November, December time, going by the last few releases. We'll probably find out, I imagine, at E3, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, the competition is so strong towards the end of the year. I mean, can they afford to release in the second half of, or even, the last third, if you like, of the year? It's, really they need to release summer or before to really make an impact, I feel.
I think when it was originally supposed to come out, was there any window back then?
Was it April? Rings a bell.
But
spring. It was a spring.
Last year,
2016 release.
Was due out originally around January last year.
January, wow.
Yeah, it was meant to be like really early January time.
No, I just found the release date. It says November 15th, 2016. That was the last confirmed release date.
Oh, confirmed,
before it got delayed.
Yeah.
Before it got delayed.
This was going back to the Sony announcement of 2015 when they first showed the title, and they said
this date was announced on in May, apparently, last year.
That date was, but there was a date mentioned. There was a date mentioned originally when they first ever showed the game.
Yeah.
Which was meant to be very early January, sort of 2016, and then it got delayed, and then delayed again, and it's the same old story, isn't it?
Oh, it's so predictable. Yeah, I imagine we'll get the release date hopefully at E3, but take it with a pinch of salt would be my advice. Next question. Ooh, this is a tough one. This is a really tough one. Graham Cook says, which racing game has the best ever career or championship mode?
Gran Turismo 4.
That was easy then.
That was easy. Yeah, I mean, for me, Gran Turismo 4 stands out. It had a phenomenal career mode. It had so many events, and I also like the fact that you can go to all the different manufacturers when you buy the cars, and they have the one make series, and it wouldn't be one lot of series. There'll be like several in some of the different manufacturers, and there was just so much content in that game. It was busting at the seams of content, and we just haven't seen a career mode in Gran Turismo like it. It really peaked for me at number 4, and it never got back to that greatness for me.
Yeah, apart from the dreaded license test, that's the only thing I've never liked about Gran Turismo career mode.
Oh, in terms of sort of fun career stroke sort of story, I guess mentions to Driver San Francisco because it was absolutely bonkers.
Yay.
And I loved Toka Race Driver as well. I thought it had a really good story mode. It's unusual to see story intertwined with serious racing, and I think they've done it really well on the.
It's a great example, actually. Now you say that, of a narrative that actually works well in a racing game. Usually they're disastrous.
Oh yeah, like The Crew, for example.
Like The Crew, yeah.
Need for Speed, 2015.
Yes.
Yeah, but they did it right, didn't they? They really did, and it's just frustrating us that we're not going to get a Toka game anymore. Because there's no market for it, sadly. And so, I just wish I'd like to see a modern game that has the Toka Race Driver sort of storyline. It really sort of implements a compelling storyline that wants you to succeed, wants you to sort of move up the racing sort of ladder and try all these different disciplines, and you sort of start.
I guess Project Cars is like the modern day equivalent of that. I mean, granted, there's no cutscenes or anything like that, but in terms of the actual structure.
Yeah, exactly. They have the structure in place. So can you imagine Project Cars with a story element? Wouldn't it be phenomenal?
Maybe that's what we'll see in number 2. Who knows? I think in terms of really nailing that feeling of progression and like you're actually a real racing driver, Project Cars nailed it. But like you said, in terms of the narrative, obviously Toka Race Driver had the edge, but I don't think any game other than Project Cars has really come close to matching Toka Race Driver in terms of that feeling of being a racing driver and advancing your career.
If you look back at Slightly Mad Studios' test drive for iRacing Legends, they did have a story mode of sorts. It was just all text, though. That was the thing. But so they have dabbled with it. So it'd be interesting if they could convert the text to actual video in a future title. It'd probably be Project Cars 2. But a future title, I'd love to see it because it really does add to the title, and it sits in your mind, because it was so unique at the time, I guess. And we need more titles like that, more titles that you think of instantly when someone says like story in racing games. Do we do it? We'll say yeah, we do, because there are examples out there where they've actually succeeded, and it is possible to have a story mode in a racing game and pull it off successfully.
In terms of recent releases, I'd actually say Sebastian Loeb, because I think like you said, like you just said, it really does weave in the narrative really seamlessly. It actually gave you a really good insight into Sebastian Loeb's actual career, and you really felt like you were on that same journey. It just did that really well.
It split his career, didn't it, into eras, and it gave you the same
really
cars
well
he had in those eras. So yeah, it was fantastic. And you know,
I mean, the videos were terrible though, with the dubbing.
Yeah, I mean, it was rough around the edges. We can all agree on that. But
so, you know, just having those interviews with him to get that insight into what it was like, you know, what the events that he was
it's a nice touch,
like.
Isn't it?
You know, it really
fleshes out the
me.
game. It gives it more. You know,
Exactly.
I'd love to learn about the cars I'm driving. It just gives it more. It makes you feel more special, and you're more privileged to sort of get behind the wheel of those.
It gives you that added context that really elevates the game.
Yeah.
Of all time, though, I'm kind of struggling a bit. I mean, I'm kind of inclined to agree with you in a way about Gran Turismo as an overall kind of package. And Project Cars.
Difficult to say. I mean, you've played more of the recent games, Martin. I mean, for me, just while you're thinking, I'll just say a couple. Obviously, Gran Turismo is such an epic game. You start off with just the most useless car in the world, but then you find a car halfway in the game that you just like, and you make it go faster than it's supposed to be able to go, and you grind out those wins, and you feel like you've earned it. And then by the time you've progressed to the end and you've done all the endurance races and everything else, you're like, I earned that badge, you know, I am ready. So there is that feeling. I was just saying, I know it's not a racing game in the same genre, but a couple I enjoyed. I enjoyed Split Second for different reasons, just because I enjoyed progressing the story in the game. I thought it had I just found it engaging. Toka Race Driver, I played a lot more Toka Race Driver 2, to be fair. And which to me at the time was epic. I did a lot of online racing on that as well. And Need for Speed Most Wanted, I've mentioned before. I became like a cab driver of that place. I knew every street and where to go and everything. So that was really cool. But it's kind of a mix because they're very different. One of them's about just the driving, and one of them's about you as a character. And I think that in a way, Project Cars 2 is lining up where if they do it right and it can combine those two elements, it could be an awfully engaging storyline, which would work well with you and as a car fan that you are as well. So, yeah, Martin, you've played the more recent ones. You know, what do you think stands out to you? I mean, Need for Speed was a bit wooden. It was a bit naff. It was a bit, you know, we paid for marketing budget for these guys, and we've got to use them. So, and they weren't great actors either. So, yeah, I'm probably gonna go with Sebastian Loeb actually, just because it does stand out. It did try something different, and it did it really well. Well, probably an easier answer is the worst career mode recently, which would have to be Assetto Corsa. Yeah, just completely stale, sterile, no sense of progression. No. What about Forza Horizon, though? I mean, obviously you haven't reviewed it yet, but you've been through it. Again, there's just not that. There's not much feeling of progression. Like everything is handed to you on a plate in that game, and it gets really wearing after a while. It constantly wants to reinforce the fact you're the best thing ever. Basically, here's some cars, here's some cash.
Yeah, I mean, winning the Ferrari has never been so mundane. It's like, oh, another Ferrari, okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're literally handed a new car every hour, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Just by playing the game, it just doesn't hook me. I think that's the problem with modern gaming, though, is that you don't need skill to progress. You can pay if you want on some games just to get a pass to unlock everything, and I think that takes away a big part of that feeling when you've earned something. And that's why I think the best gaming experience are ones where you've really had to drive within an inch of your life to win, and you've had to really work a lot to get there, but you've not had to grind. You feel like you're always progressing. You feel like you're always learning something and doing something new. And I think that's again another mark of a great racing game, is that it develops you. You are a better driver by the end of it than you started. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go with Sebastian Loeb in terms of recent releases. Just so much content, so much to do. The Sebastian Loeb experience mode, just a really well thought out career mode.
That leads us nicely to the final question from Inside Sim Racing's Billy Strange again. How nice of him. He says, another good question actually, do you like the concept of racing titles as a service with continuous updates, or a standalone experience with DLC or expansions? There's a debate. I'd say in a way, annual series like F1 and MotoGP could possibly work better with just updates rather than sequel after sequel every year with new content.
Well, I mean, they've got to pay for licenses, and
That's
it's
it.
a necessary thing.
Yeah.
That's the
Licensing
trouble.
gets in the way there, doesn't it? So you're always going to, unfortunately, you're always
If
going to.
that wasn't an issue, though, I would say that. But yeah,
if people were happy to pay the license every year, so if you knew that to play Formula One you had to pay a £40 subscription, but what it meant is, you've got to develop you've got much higher quality assets, so they could put a lot of investment into these tracks, and then they could put the same amount of investment into them every year to make them better and better and more realistic. You'd probably end up with a better game, but unfortunately the consumer doesn't always see it that way. I suppose on a personal front, I mean, we've seen both methods, haven't we? We've seen RaceRoom Racing Experience and iRacing, say various different titles. You've got your free to play stuff, and you've got your subscription based. iRacing is very expensive. I don't know. I suppose for me as a consumer, I like to just buy a game and own it. I know it's mine. I've paid for it. That's the end of it. And then I think another argument of that is how much is DLC worth, and I think there's too much DLC these days. I really do. I personally like the idea of buying a game and saying, right, that's it, I own that game. I prefer more substantial DLC packs rather than these little bits and pieces that they're chucking out just to keeping their game relevant in the public eye, because that's what it is now. It's just a marketing thing. Oh, don't forget our game, it's got DLC. Don't forget our game, it's got DLC. Just to keep them relevant, keep them selling. So the market has changed, doesn't it? The internet's changed it. But in that sense, no, I think I do prefer to buy a package and work with that. Very different, say like R Factor, where you've got lots of mods and stuff like that constantly coming. I guess the negative side is that, like when I played, I had a big community on Project Gotham Racing 3 and a big community on, say, Race Pro, but they didn't all migrate to the next game with us. So we lost that community. And I think that's one of the negatives, though, of package games, is that you do lose that community. When you go to iRacing that there's going to be old faces there that you knew before, and nothing's really changed in that way. They'll still be moaning about something. But, when you change from game to game on console, you lose so many people along the way that, it kind of breaks up that community as well. What do you guys think? I
mean, yeah, in many respects, all games are a service now, because they all have continuous updates, don't they? Because, I mean, every time you switch on your PlayStation or Xbox, if you haven't played a game for a little while, more likely you're going to have an update to download. So
yeah. My PC is no joke now. I mean, when I turn on Steam, since I've had the HTC Vive, oh my God, every single VR game, including the Vive itself, has a massive update every time I turn it on. And it's like, oh, well, I turn it on, I literally walk away for 2 hours and then come back, because that's how long it takes sometimes to update everything on the gaming PC. So,
I mean, I guess with titles like Assetto Corsa and I expect Gran Turismo Sport, we're seeing these service games, if you like, on consoles now. And when you've got services that cross platforms, there's always that danger that you're going to upset one set of platform fans, because we've seen it time and time again with Assetto Corsa. So if you're going to have a service, you have to make sure it's equal on all platforms. That's the real challenge, and you need to have that infrastructure in place to allow that to happen. So as long as it's all fair, I don't see it as a bad thing or anything, but it's just it's a lot of big undertaking, and so far I don't know, I think it's best suited to PC market, these sort of types of service games, and I think Assetto Corsa is evident of that. The fact that we are sort of yearning for Dirt Rally DLC. You know, we're not massive fans of DLC generally speaking, but the only reason why we want the DLC for Dirt is because we feel it was an incomplete package to start with. So
that's the other thing, actually. I do take offence when it's really obvious that they just held content back and then released it later on.
Yeah,
that's
I mean, people will be lapping up the Dirt Rally DLC, but the truth is, it should have had more content to start with, and I'd much prefer if the game was complete to start with, rather than to pay for a quarter of the game, say a year down the line.
Yeah, if you look at Star Wars Battlefront, for example, I know it's not a racing game, but it was really obvious that you're only getting like half the game because it was just such an empty shell of a game. And then as soon as you load it up, oh, there's a season pass with upcoming DLC that they've been holding back. That's when I take offense a bit to DLC.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, times like that, you say, well, that's pre-planned DLC. It's part of the game. So they've made a game and they said, right, let's cut it down the middle, take this bit out, this bit out, and this bit out, and we'll use that as DLC. And that's where it was wrong. I think with Star Wars Battlefront, why it always felt bad was because they didn't have a one-player experience in there, not a proper one-player mode, story mode, and they just cut it out of the game. And it kind of makes me wonder if more racing game developers are doing that now and taking cars out, taking tracks out, you know, carving it up, because they know they want to release that as DLC further down the line. And I think sometimes that DLC, when it first was invented, or expansions, felt fine because you knew they've completed the game, and now this income is now enabling the developer to keep making content for this great game that I love, and I'm happy to support that development. But it's not like that now. You know, it's taking stuff out to then give to you later at a cost, and at least that's how it feels. Right? It is how it happens. So, you know, it's how it's achieved. In that sense.
It's how it's handled. Really.
I suppose, you know, as I say, to answer the question, do I prefer a service or a game in a box? I prefer a game in a box. I like to just own something and know that's it. I think the whole problem with the service is that they are expensive. There's an ongoing, outgoing fee, and goodness, I'm always trying to reduce my bills.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I prefer just the standalone experience because I'm old school like that. What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm very much the same as you two guys. I much rather buy a product, know what's in it, make it a complete product package, and you know what you get in, you know what to expect, and that's it really. Just keep it as it was in the old days, you know.
Yeah. That's it then, really, for the Q&A and also this podcast. Unless anyone else has anything else to add.
No, I think that's it for this week. We've rambled on enough, I think, for this week.
You're getting good at rambling, but then, like I said, it is weekly racing rambles, so that is exactly what you're getting. That's it from us then. If you do have any questions for us, obviously do get in touch, and we'll do our best to answer them next week. But yeah, thanks as always for listening, and we'll see you again next time. Goodbye. Fantastic. You guys ready?
As ready as I've ever been.
Yeah.
Except with a mouthful of food.
I really are.